I'm Hunter. I'm your host for all things meat and liquor related. Welcome to Zero Meat 30. So everybody voted. Everyone voted for a brisket except for one person. So, I guess we're going brisket. Alabama, though, not a big brisket state. That's definitely more of a Texas thing. So the first challenge of my first ever brisket is finding an actual brisket to cook. I'm headed to a place called Mr. P's Butcher Shop. It's supposed to be the best place in town to purchase meat. I've personally never been there. I've lived here 6 years and I've never been to Mr. P's Butcher Shop. But I hear that he's got some great things, and I hear that he always has a good brisket. I totally just missed it. Hopefully I can get it on the way back out. I just passed a place called the Pioneer Play School. What the hell are they doing in there? Teaching kids how to chop wood? Or like Little House on the Prairie? Y'all wanna make some grits real quick? What freaking part of town am I in? Like, that's one of the most Alabama things that I have seen by far. Oh, totally by far. Oh, there it is over there. Mr. P's Butcher Shop. They've got a special. Enough meat for 75 meals. $149.99. That's rather impressive. Overall, Mr. P's Butcher Shop, total success. They had a brisket. I purchased the brisket. I now own a brisket. It came out, I don't know where I'm going. Came out to be $68, 11.7 pound brisket, whole brisket with the point and the flat. So now I guess we're ready to smoke a brisket. Sorta. I mean, like, we have what we need to smoke the brisket, other than the skill that it takes to smoke a brisket. Now we just need to get this thing seasoned up or marinated or whatever the heck we were supposed to do to a brisket. I've heard that all I need to do is put salt and pepper on it only, nothing else. I've also heard that you ice it with mustard like you do pork. I've also heard that that's a terrible idea. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. As of this moment, which is 2:47 p.m. the day before I'm going to smoke a brisket, I'm going to do salt and pepper only. If you have any suggestions or you have your own favorite brisket recipe, post those in the comment section below and I'll give those a try on my next brisket. It's 2:20 a.m. To anyone that voted for a brisket, right now, I hate you. I just woke up to get this brisket started. If you think that just because it's 2:20 a.m. I'm gonna skip step one, you're out of your mind.
Well, one could argue that at 2:18 in the morning I should go with a vodka Red Bull. But it's 26 degrees outside, so I think I'm gonna go with something that'll keep me warm. Yep. All warm and fuzzy inside. Alright, so I've got my brisket laid out here. I'm going to season it and let it rest. It's not quite going to get up to room temperature. I don't know why everybody says let it get up to room temperature. For this to get up to room temperature, it would take about 4 hours. And I'm not letting it sit here on my counter for 4 hours. So we're going to mix up some spices. We're going to mix up salt and pepper. We're going to cover this brisket with salt and pepper and let it sit for a little while longer while we go get our fire started. All I'm gonna do is pour this on top here. All right, flipped it over. Just gonna do the same thing to this side over here. All right, so I'm currently in my garage because it's freezing out. I'm gonna get my fire situated before taking it outside and starting it. I'm gonna use 100% hardwood lump charcoal. I'm not gonna use briquettes. I never use briquettes. Never use lighter fluid. Strictly lump charcoal and lump pieces of hardwood. All right, I've got it cleaned out just to where I've got a little layer of coals left. So I'm gonna take this layer of coals and then I'm gonna put some of these wood chunks that I had left over around in this bed of coals. And then from there, I'm gonna layer my lump charcoal again, then another layer of wood, then another layer of lump charcoal, and then another layer of wood, and then I'm gonna light my fire on top and let it burn down through. Now the wood that I'm using hickory and apple wood chunks. According to everyone on the internet, that's not what you're supposed to use for a brisket. You're supposed to use an oak, maybe a pecan, and then if you have to, an apple. But I like hickory and I like apple, and I've never been a fan of what the internet has to say. So I'm gonna go with a hickory and an apple wood blend. So I use an electric starter to start my fires because I'm lazy and it's convenient. Tonight / this morning, I started my electric starter in the garage. You know, trying not to be out here in the cold. It worked. It did start my fire. And although there's not much smoke that comes out of the electric starter, apparently it's enough to set off the fire alarm. Helen, currently not too happy right now with me. All right, we have our fire bed built. We've got our lump charcoal, we've got our hardwood. The only thing we need now is we just need to pour hot coals on top and give this 20 or 30 minutes to really burn in, and we'll be good to go. All right, I'm gonna close my lid up here. I'm gonna go top air hole all the way open. Bottom air vent, I'm gonna open all the way. I'm using the Char Griller Acorn. I've been using it a couple years. I think it's a great little smoker that everybody can afford. It can cook and it can smoke. If you are gonna smoke, you have to buy the little $40 extra smoking stone. And I've really been a fan of my little Acorn. It's been faithful, it's been good to me. The only thing I can say is that the built-in temperature gauge absolutely does not work. Like, it's the biggest piece of crap I've ever seen in my life. But the grill overall is great. But if you buy this grill, just make sure and have some other type of way to measure the temperature. I'm gonna be using the Weber iGrill, which is very great for tonight as well, because as soon as this fire's going and I put this brisket on it, I'm gonna set up my iGrill, link it to my phone, and I'm going to bed. And if my temperature gets too high or my temperature gets too low, the iGrill is gonna shoot me an alert and wake me up. It's also gonna wake up my wife. But you know, that's just part of it. You know, it's for the cause. So right now we've got a nice little thing of smoke coming out. We're just gonna let this burn. It's probably gonna take us 20 or 30 minutes to get to the temperature that we wanna get. Brisket's still inside sitting, getting a little closer to room temperature. We know it's not gonna get to room temperature. And hopefully we can put this thing on here soon and head back to bed. I mean, the things I do for Instagram. I couldn't find any toboggans because I only need it one day a year, but I am for sure staying warm right now. We're doing pretty good right now. We got plenty of smoke coming out. We're getting a little closer up to temperature. I don't want to overshoot our temperature, so I've closed our top down to about a third of the way open. And our bottom, we're going to cut to, you can't see that, it's dark out here. We're going to cut that to also about a third of the way open, which on the little gauge is a number 3. We're going to let this sit for about 10 more minutes. So I've already added our smoking stone. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add this drip pan / vapor pan. You can use water, beer, anything you want to really. I'm going to be using apple juice. what that's going to do is it's going to keep it moist inside here, which is going to be very helpful for us, especially for such a long smoke. But also any grease, if you have something that you're cooking that's greasy, any grease is going to drip into this pan, and it's going to stay in this pan, and it's going to keep it from dripping down and getting to your fire, which is going to really affect your temperature in the long run. A lot of people say that the first hour of smoke coming off of your grill is bad smoke, not to use this smoke, to wait and let it burn in an hour before actually putting your meat on it. But I personally don't really care what everybody on the internet has to say. I think smoke is smoke. The wood that's burning right now is the same wood that will be burning in an hour. So if you have any suggestions as to why the first hour of smoke is bad smoke, go ahead and drop that in the comment section below. I'll take the advice, I'll take free knowledge, but as of right now, I don't know the difference between the two smokes, so I'm just going to use the smoke that I have. Right here of the 0 on my iGrill, 2 is out. So apparently the lifespan of the LEDs on the iGrill 2 is only 13 months. That's kind of a bummer. But you know what? That's a lot longer than the lifespan of a Acorn temperature gauge. Currently, the Acorn temperature gauge says we are at 445 degrees. Weber says you're full of. So brisket's made up of two sections. You have the flat and the point. The flat is not as thick, and it's a leaner cut of meat. And then the point is a thicker cut of meat that's a little bit more fatty. If you're using a smoker that is not a Kamado style like mine, or it's like a wood firebox on the side or something of that nature, you want to put the point towards your hottest part of your grill because it's the thickest. That'll kind of keep your cooking even. If you have that reversed, your flat's definitely going to cook way faster than the point, and it's going to dry out on you, which is mega bummer. But at the same time, this is just what the internet says. And I don't know any of this for a fact because I've never smoked a brisket before. In all reality, y'all should probably not be watching me smoke a brisket unless you're just tuning in to see if I fail. Big possibility. It's time. We've got great smoke. We've got great temperature. It's late. I'm ready to go back to bed. We're gonna throw this brisket on here and we're gonna shoot for about 5 hours. We want it to get to about 160 degrees internal temperature, and then we're going to wrap it. So we've got the brisket on there. We're going to take one quick look at it here in just a second. And then we're not going to touch it for 5 hours unless we have a temperature problem. We don't want to keep opening and closing the lid, as good as I'm sure as it looks over the next 5 hours. We just don't want to touch our temperature or affect our temperature. These Kamados keep a lot of moisture in with the half dome top, so we don't want to let any of that moisture out either. But the one thing I do have to say about putting it on is you want to make sure that the fat side is up. I learned my lesson with Boston butts. I never put the fat side up, I always put the fat side down. Because my thinking was, you put the fat side down, it protects against the heat, so that your Boston butt doesn't dry out. Not terrible logic, but if you put the fat side up, you're smoking over a long period of time. That fat's gonna break down, whether it's on the top or whether it's on the bottom. But if that fat is on the top, when it breaks down, it's all going to soak through your Boston butt and keep your Boston moist. Same thing's going to happen with this brisket. We're going to put our fat side up, the fat's going to start to break down, and it's going to really keep our brisket moist. In theory. It's my first brisket. Don't freaking listen to me. Do not listen to me. This is for entertainment purposes only. Alright, one little look before we shut it down for the night. So to catch us up on a little overview of everything that we've done so far, we purchased a brisket, whole brisket, the point and the flat, from Mr. P's Butcher Shop for 11.7 pounds. We woke up at 2:15 a.m. And the first thing we did, step one, as always, we fixed a drink to stay warm. Then we seasoned that brisket with salt, pepper, cayenne pepper, a little bit of ghost pepper chili, a little bit of paprika, a little bit of brown sugar. And then we let that sit out for right around an hour, maybe a little longer than an hour. We got our fire started with our electric starter, which you don't do in your garage, by the way. And then we built our bed of coals, which was coals, then wood, coals, then hardwood, all lump charcoal and hardwood, which was apple and hickory. We got our temperature up to where we wanted it, which was about 225. We know that because we have a Weber iGrill. We're not trusting the analog gauge on our smoker. Then we put the brisket on the smoker at 225 with the fat side of the brisket up. And we're going to leave it sitting there for about 5 hours. And we're not going to touch it the entire 5 hours unless we just have a temperature problem. So I'm going to take a shower and I'm going to go to sleep. I'll see you guys in the morning. All right, time for our morning update. It's 9:45 a.m. I haven't touched the smoker, opened the smoker in 6 hours. I went to bed. I slept like a baby. I did leave my Bluetooth Weber in all night. I checked it a couple times. It got a little lower than we wanted it. It got down into like 190-ish. But it was 20 degrees outside last night, and that was not a big enough temperature drop to make me get out of bed and come out here and adjust the dial. So on first view of the smoker, great smoke still pouring out of the top. We're currently sitting at 229 degrees, so that's fantastic. I have not opened this smoker. I have not looked in this smoker. So let's open it up and see what she looks like. Here's our morning step one. This morning it is the 1792 neat. Let's see what it looks like. Oh yeah, you can't see anything in this photograph. Let's see if I can adjust this a little bit. Yeah, that looks good right there. So this is 6 hours between 190 and 225. It is looking fantastic. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to put our probe in here, and we're looking for 165 degrees. So we're going to put it right here on the big side, about halfway in. I'm going to leave that probe in. We're going to shut it down for about another hour. It smells fantastic. We're currently at 165 degrees, so we're going to go ahead and take that off. We're going to wrap it in foil and put it back on until it reaches 200 degrees. While we've got it off, we're going to go ahead and freshen up our drip pan under there with some more apple juice. All right, so we smoked it till 165. Then we added, then we took it off, we wrapped it in tin foil, and then after that we smoked it again, which we really weren't smoking, we were really just baking. So we baked it until it got to 200 degrees. We pulled it off at 200 degrees, and now it's sitting in a cooler. We're gonna let it sit there for 2 hours. So we have 2 hours to drink more alcohol, and then we're gonna enjoy this brisket. And this brisket could either be very good or, so the brisket's finished. We smoked the brisket until 165. We wrapped it in tin foil. Then we smoked it. We didn't really smoke it. We basically baked it until it got to 200 degrees. We took it off at 200. We've sat it in a cooler for 2 hours. This has been the longest 2 hours of my entire life waiting for this brisket. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna grab this brisket out of the cooler that's been sitting for 2 hours. Hopefully it's still warm, it should be. According to the internet, it should still be warm. I've never smoked a brisket, so we're basically just basing this off of what the internet says. So we're gonna grab this brisket, we're gonna take it inside, we're gonna start slicing it up. This is Zero Meat 30. We're smoking some brisket tonight. So the official brisket review, a brisket is supposed to have a 1/4 inch of fat layered on the top. The man at the butcher shop advised me, since it was my first brisket, to not trim any of that fat to make it a 1/4 inch. So my fat was pretty thick. I would definitely suggest trimming that, even if it is your first brisket. Trim that fat off. That fat's so thick that it makes it really tough for the seasoning to penetrate into the actual brisket. And it just becomes really fatty. It does keep it moist, which is a great thing, but it's just unnecessary fat. So I would go ahead and trim that to a 1/4 inch. But overall, I think my first brisket was fantastic. And I would advise anybody that has never tried a brisket, that's scared to try a brisket, to go ahead and try a brisket. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button.